Amherst and guardrails translates into $450,000 more of cuts for Amherst. So I don't know how to sell that to my town. I get that it means other towns pay less, but that just feeds that subsidizing narrative that is very hard for all of us to take. So then when I then compare it back to what Amherst said they can afford, which is the 4%, option one, it's the same amount of cuts. So they're paying more for nothing more, except, right? So option one for the statutory method is $1 million in cuts, and Amherst is being asked to pay their 4%, 1.6 million, 19.6 million. And the guardrail method, where they're being asked to pay $300,000 more, is the same amount. So it's back, I think.
What do you mean the same amount?
Of cuts,
The same amount of cuts.
approximately.
So we're back to, if I'm going to ask the town of Amherst to pay more than they said they were going to pay, and they get nothing more out of it, I don't know what to do with that. So help me. Yeah.
So I have William, Tillman, and then Sarah.
I'm okay for right now.
Tillman.
So I want to just point out that we're trying to follow, I mean, I hope we're trying to follow a little bit of current practice, which has been the guardrail method. I mean, I want to make sure it doesn't sound like the guardrail method is a totally outrageous proposition, because that's what we've been doing for the last few years. Yes, it's not what Desi loves, but this is what the towns have been expecting, because that's what we've been doing. And so, to compare scenario 2 to 1 and say 1 is the gold standard, yes, by the agreement, but this is not what we've been communicating to the towns when we, where we left it off last year. So I just want to be careful in making it sound like this is, the guardrail is an outrageous proposition.
Okay.
Sarah.
Well, I think I'm making a similar response to Deb, which is, 2 only looks worse than, Amherst might prefer 1 to 2, but the other towns are not going to vote for 1. It's not going to happen. So there's no point in comparing. And I'm sure they're not happy about that.
Yeah.
I understand.
Okay. That helps.
William.
I was just going to say, do we want to do a straw poll? Can we do that before we vote, or no?
We haven't had a motion.
We have 3 options, right?
We can
in
do
front
a
of us.
straw poll. Yep,
Could we do a straw poll on the 3 options?
we can.
And you could vote multiple times on each option if you wanted to?
Yeah, I
Right,
mean,
straw
a
poll.
straw poll is just a preference,
Right.
and it's not binding in any way. Jennifer did have her hand up, so if you don't mind if we do,
No.
Jennifer have,
I-
sorry.
I withdraw.
Withdraw, okay. Okay. So, yes, we can have a straw poll about a preference to a budget scenario. Okay, so we have option budget scenario 1, which is the
Statutory.
regional assessment method.
Point of
Good.
You said, or somebody said we could vote more than once. We all have to vote the same number of times, or it's,
Not for us.
yeah, because if I only vote for 1 and somebody votes for 2 different,
Does it-
are you asking which
it's a
is our
straw poll.
preference?
It's,
We
yeah,
have 1 preference.
a
Yeah.
straw poll, a preference, you can, I don't think it's like, this is non-binding in
Yeah.
any way. So if you have big feelings that I really like these 2, that's fine.
Okay.
So right? We have to get to the end at some point. So if we have a straw poll and then we just have two that we're talking about, then we just have two instead of three we're talking about, right? So, okay. So the scenario 1 is the regional assessment method. Option, which has overall reduction of just under $1 million. And requires, yeah, okay. And then we have option 2, which is also a reduction of just, this one is a reduction of just over $1 million, which has Leverett, Pelham, and Shutesbury at 6.5% and Amherst at just under 5.5. And then we have option 3, which is a overall increase of 6.5% for each of the 4 towns. Okay. So, William, do you have a preference?
My straw poll idea was that everyone could raise their hand for option 1 and we could count that. And then everyone could raise their hand for option 2 and we count that. And then everyone could raise their hand for option 3 and we count that. And we look at,
Who's got what?
yeah,
Sure. All right. Yep, go ahead, Anna.
So, the problem with DESI is that they won't allow us to do anything except for one standard guardrail. But that really pushes us to get further and further out of balance. But if we, at one point, I think it was Pelham who was talking about, well, maybe later, once we figure out all of our budget issues, we might be able to gift an extra amount that would then be applied to our base for the next year. But if they gave us a gift, how would that get worked into the budget, and would that then like show that they are putting in more than 6.5%, or would that be in some other compartment that would then not affect their allocation amount, or like how would that play for DESI? Does that make sense? Yes.
Think.
I was saying, I don't think DESI cares how we get the money. I think, which is what happened last year, we just get what we voted on and everybody had the standard amount. I think what ends up happening is it falls back on us, the district, which we're going to end up in the same, hey, don't take out the additional 1.5 or whatever percent and getting letters again. So for me, that's it. As long as they know that what they're giving us is the base for the following fiscal year, that's it.
So the same way the towns can't tell us how to spend our money, we can't tell them how to fund.
No, but this is what I'm saying is like, if they give us their allocated 6.5% increase, and then they give us a gift,
we throw a party.
does that make their allocation amount 6.7%, or does that make their allocation amount 6.5% plus a gift?
I think it's 6.5% plus a gift, but then next year,
Then if they
it-
promise to roll, if that becomes
then it's
their base.
already rolled in. So,
Okay, so it wouldn't
it's a-
affect DESI, it would just affect us.
us.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Straw poll. All those in favor, or not in favor? The preference, whatever. Straw poll for scenario 3, which is a 6.5% increase to all 4 towns.
Option 3.
Option 3.
Starting. Who wants this?
Starting at option 3.
Who likes it?
Who would vote on this?
Who would?
I mean,
Yeah. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and Tillman is.
I don't know if Jennifer's hand is up close.
Irv.
Yes.
Okay. You're including. Okay. 7. Then we have option 2, which is 6.5% increase for the 3 smaller towns and almost 5.5 for Amherst. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What are we at? 8? Okay. And option 1, straight up regional agreement method. Goose egg. Oh, 2. Okay.
Like, wait, for everybody with no caps, just, and a level services budget?
It is a just under $1 million reduction. Not level
This is the
services.
statutory.
It's up
method.
there.
It's this one.
Here's the number 1. So it's that percent increase right there, but it's still a million. It's still a million. 997.
Oh, no. Doesn't work.
Okay. So our straw poll looks like we are heavily favored between option 2 and option 3.
Good job, team.
How many do we have to pass?
We're getting there. For us to pass our budget, I believe we need a simple majority. Right?
Yes. No.
Shannon, do you know? I think so.
Yeah, we're not
2/3.
2/3,
We need 2/3.
which is
So-
how many?
Yeah, I looked at it.
We need 6.
Shannon, clarity of the committee, of the regional committee, or of the towns? What was your
Of the
question? Was
committee. The committee.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
6.
More comments we would like to make on our budget scenarios. Sarah?
And maybe I'm repeating a point Jennifer made. I just think it's going to be a lot harder to get Amherst to 6.5. Or, I don't think they will be happy at paying just as much, as a percentage increase for all the towns. I think it would be quite a bit easier to get them, although not easy, to get them to 5.5. I think they would perceive that as more, well,
Fair.
I just think it'd be easier.
Okay. William?
I think for myself, last year we pushed a budget out that we felt comfortable supporting the kids. We had a compromise, but we did take a big step forward in that first budget we pushed forward. I think if we don't swing the bat all the way, then we might miss something. We had to go back and redo the budget last time. We could always go back and redo the budget again. So I would push for 3 and do what we can do for the kids and see.
Jennifer?
Yeah, I'm being very risk averse right now for some reason. I'm willing to take the risk of pushing Amherst to 5.49. And I'm willing to count on our community to come out and make public comment and do whatever they can to push the finance committee and town council. I'm willing to take that risk. It's a risk. 2 or 3 is a risk either way. I just, between 2 and 3, I feel like 3 is a much bigger risk. And it just doesn't sit right with me. I just feel like the chances of Amherst agreeing to 6.5 are so low. That's why I'm pushing for 2. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Deb?
Can we look at what the difference in those 2 budgets would restore?
Sure.
So that's $200,000, and we would have gone back and restored, it looks like, if I got it correctly, no, I don't have it correctly, I don't have the right spread. Somebody else have what that gets us, the yellow boxes on one of these spreadsheets?
Maybe I misunderstood, but I feel like this is the question I asked earlier.
You did.
Right? And it gets us back
Oh, right.
one middle school teacher.
Right.
The 3 paras, one of which isn't required. and one,
Or-
like secretary,
or the clerical,
or the clerical.
And then there's
So-
one science teacher.
Yeah, I
one
remember
science
now.
teacher.
Yeah,
That one's not coming back with either version.
yes.
It
The
could.
it could, the reduction of the
It
science teacher
could,
could
it's,
come
so
back.
it's like, they have these,
Yep.
the para, the
One of
three
the-
paras, the middle school teacher and the science teacher and
The three,
The clerical,
the clerical position, and some combination of those could come back,
based on the school needs.
but not all of them.
so just to sum up, it's a half a teacher, student facing, it's a half a student facing position, a classroom teacher. And that's the only difference in those two scenarios,
It's not,
in terms of student facing.
No.
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 Can't be.
So you have the one middle school teacher.
The middle school teacher.
You have the one middle school teacher
Okay.
that would be restored. Then you would additionally have the options of, you have three paras, one that would have been like natural transition.
Yep.
You have a clerical option, and you have a portion of a reduction in a science teacher. And so that those positions, we would work with the team to determine which of those would be most critical with the 200,000 that would be less of a deficit.
But the middle school teacher wouldn't be a classroom teacher, if you could make that work. I thought that's what you said, maybe?
So if I have to reduce, okay, I'm confused.
I'm
Is the is I am, because I thought I was answering what's being returned, not what's being taken out. Okay, so
Yeah, you were. My bad.
let me stick to my language.
Okay.
The one unit A position
Yeah.
that would be not returned in option 2
Right.
could be returned in option 3
Correct.
at the middle school.
Yes. And that is a classroom teacher.
I stated that the unit A position is, I am going to aim for it not to be a classroom teacher that
Right.
provides direct instruction.
Right.
But we will balance the schedules and the numbers
Okay.
to ensure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
William,
I just have a question for Shannon, and it's maybe too complicated. So option 2 and option 3, it would be the same ask to 3 of the towns.
Yes.
Yes.
It's only a different ask for Amherst. Is there a way that we could put the budget forward that the 3 towns could vote on that, and then it would just be left with Amherst to vote? I don't know.
Can I answer first, Shannon?
Sure.
Okay, because we walked this through.
Okay, sorry.
What we are going to put forth, and what I think Tillman had suggested, was all 4 towns have a 6.5% guardrail. The difference between option 2 and option 3 is that we're saying the minimum of that guardrail that Amherst needs to hit is at 5.69? 49%. So that's the difference. We are going to submit to DESI and say, for fiscal year 26 only, we are instituting a 6.5% guardrail. The 3 smaller towns will be hitting that guardrail. We are saying in option 2 that the minimum of that guardrail that Amherst can hit is 5.49%. Shannon, am I correct?
Yes.
And in option 3, how does that?
Oh, in option 3, then you hit in the guardrail like everybody else.
Okay.
Irv, was your hand up?
Yes, it is. I guess when I look at the option 2 and option 3 in relationship to going to the town of Amherst to support this, it's very difficult to do certainly to do option 3. Very, very difficult. I could not see myself supporting that. However, I can see myself supporting option 2, even though I think that is going to be a long, hard road for us to go. However, it is more palatable, I believe, than will be more palatable to Amherst than option three. Option three is just too far of a reach and too much to ask.
Thank you, Irv. Anna?
So I love how everyone is just kowtowing to Amherst because the difference between what Amherst owes and what Shutesbury owes is really not that much different, like the percentage increase. And I'm telling you that we're asking Shutesbury to just step up and take the bite. And oh, but Amherst, poor Amherst, they can't possibly do it. And that's not going to play well in Shutesbury. So for Amherst to complain and cry about not this method being totally unfair, and we shouldn't ask Amherst because that's too much of a heavy lift for Amherst. But oh, Shutesbury, no problem. They can absolutely do it. I think that's gonna hit some feelings. And I'm kind of tired of Amherst continuing to object to stuff that all of the other towns are like, let's just, give the students what they need. And so I firmly suggest that we start with 6.5. And if we get pushback or people fight us on it and they complain about it, then we can deal with that fact at that point. But I'm not going to go to the towns and say, well, Amherst fights harder, so we'll just say, okay, 5.5 is okay for you, but everybody else really step up and do 6.5. I'm going to say we're all going to do 6.5, and if you have a problem with that, come back to us.
Sarah?
One thing I'm keeping in mind is that the Amherst School Committee will start deliberating its budget next week. And that budget has a big hole, and I'm not deliberating, but I'm imagining that we may be considering asking the town of Amherst for more money than they've told us they want, that we are going to get. So I am trying to keep the needs of all of Amherst's students in my mind, and Amherst's ability or willingness, but certainly willingness to meet budgets that both committees are going to be asking for. So I don't want to end up, robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Well,
Sorry.
we all sit on two committees.
Yeah.
That's how we get here. Irv?
Yeah, I guess I really want to caution people about the language that is used, and especially in relationship to Anna's language in relationship to Amherst. It does us no good to vilify our towns and the town personnel who are working diligently and very hard to try to come together to meet our budgets. So vilifying Amherst is really out of line.
Okay. Deb?
Can we look at, I have to say it, I just have to say, can we look at the statutory method for 2? It's the same amount of money for Amherst, and it's $350,000 less in reductions.
I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
For two?
For 2. The regional method, the regional agreement method, the statutory method, it's 5.49 for Amherst and 5.49 for Amherst in both columns. And somebody gets a reduction of $650,000 versus $1 million.
I'm sorry, Deb. Can you explain
Okay,
to me
so
what you're...
so page 2. Okay.
If you go-
So
if
look
you
at the top.
Yeah.
She's talking about right here
there.
is 650 if we did statutory, and then over here, this is not statutory. But I think because we had asked to have the 6.5, this was the math that We had to ask for this to
Yeah.
then be able to get to this, and that's what we asked for.
Okay, so can we discuss the regional agreement method for a, can we please discuss that regional agreement method, even though that's not what we came to discuss?
The 7.2%
You're
increase?
talking
The
like
7
th-
point-
Using this as an option?
No,
I
the
would,
next.
I would like to hear people discuss that, please.
Which is these two columns here, right?
Yes.
You want to talk about the funding for it, or you want to talk about,
Whether or not they could support one versus the other.
so,
There's no way.
That's, I need
So,
that
I mean,
discussion to take place.
it's the same numbers as option one, as far as the percentages asking for the towns.
Yes,
So I don't see how we're gonna get, we have to have 3 of the towns agree. So, I mean, it looks like to me that Amherst would possibly agree, and it looks like to me possibly Shutesbury would agree. But Shutesbury may not agree, but I think that Pelham and Leverett would, you know, it would, from what I understand about the Pelham is that 22, 23, 24% is not gonna be possible.
okay, Jennifer.
So, I understood Deb's question, and so, I think that, sorry. First, I want to address what Anna said about Amherst, and, I'm not suggesting, I said I prefer option 2. And it's not because I'm like, oh, poor Amherst, we can't ask them to give more. I feel so bad for them. It's because I'm pragmatic about what I think the Amherst Town Council would approve. I already think it's going to be a stretch to get them to approve 5.49, but I'm willing to take that risk. But I don't think they would approve 6.5. So I'm being pragmatic. And along the lines of being pragmatic, I think that option 1, we agreed, I believe we agreed that we wouldn't be able to get 3 of the 4 towns to agree to option 1. We might be able to get 2, but we wouldn't get 3. And then I think option 2, page 2, regional agreement method, I think no one would agree. No one would agree to that. I don't think any of the towns would agree. Like Amherst wouldn't automatically agree because it's too high. The Pelham and Leverett are in double digits, and Shutesbury has already said they won't give more than 6.5. So the fact that we are like the thing that Tillman has said, that Shutesbury has said they can't give more than 6.5, so that's what Shutesbury can do. Like we're making these decisions based on what our town has told us, what our towns have told us they can support. We're pushing Amherst. Amherst has told us 4%, and we're going to try to push them to 5.49. Not because I feel bad for them, but because I'm being pragmatic. So I appreciate Deb bringing up the regional agreement version of option 2, but I don't think anyone would agree to that. And so I'm still firm on 2. 2 with guardrails.
Deb?
so putting on my town councilor hat, we're pushing, well, the other towns have come forth with higher percentages. Of the towns, of the other 2 towns, town's councilor Deb says, well, Pelham and Leverett are further away from the statutory method, so their increases make sense. That's all I got on that. But the other towns have come forward saying, we will dig deeper, but this is all we can do, 6.5, 6.5, 6 point, well, no, they went up to 6.5. And Amherst says, all we can do is 4%. You're gonna push us, why aren't you gonna push the other towns to go up higher than they can? Discuss, please.
Anna?
So I want to address what Irv said, and I am not vilifying Amherst. I am making a comment about how the school committee reacts to Amherst. And we seem to fear or resist asking Amherst because they put up such a strong fight, whereas the other towns seem to play nicer with us. And I think we should not take that into consideration, and we should demand the same of every town, regardless of what we think is good for them or happy for them. And so I don't mean to be rude. I just think that we have to be fair. And I get that Amherst is the furthest, has the least amount of increase to get into our current regional allocation method. And that Pelham is the largest increase to get to our current allocation method. But if we're capping everybody at a higher than what they would like to be at level, and there's a clear division if we wanted to go that way. But Desi doesn't think that that's acceptable, and we probably shouldn't play like that. So, again, I feel like we should ask for 6.5% and make them say no. And if they say no, we'll deal. But let's ask, because we can't get what we don't ask for. And by admitting defeat before we even start, we're just going to get less money.
Bridget?
I think I go back to what we talked about last year, which is our job is to look at what the students need, right? And a lot of the discussion last time came because Tillman came from his town and he said, we're hearing what you say, but sorry, we can't do that. And then some of the pushback that we're hearing there is from Jennifer and Deb is because we've been listening to our finance committee meetings. We heard Amherst at the four towns where they felt like the gap between the statutory method is just getting bigger and bigger. And we need to do the unidealistic part of counting votes, right? So I feel very torn. I want to vote for 2, but I think we can win 3. And so I'm just putting it at that. I would like to just start this conversation and keep this conversation going from the completely different place. And I think our process is really messed up in terms of that. We're not starting with what the students need. And then we're just keep getting pushed into these boxes by the town. I don't know how we fix that. We didn't have this problem as much when we had town meeting in Amherst. That's why our budgets in Amherst, 52% used to go to the schools. We're down to 47%. The different change in government has pushed us away from that. But on the other hand, we have to pass this budget within the form of government we have. And town council also has its percentages. And I can count votes there. We can push, I think we can push 3 people who aren't on one side or the other very firmly right now to move in the right way for the smaller percentage, and I'm not sure about the larger one. I don't like that. I don't like to say it. I don't like to be part of it. I want to do what the students need.
Sure. I just want everyone to know that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And I've sat down very quietly and heard the same thing go around this room from everyone repeatedly over and over again. I've heard the same comments at the Four Towns meetings. I've heard the same comments at our budget discussions. At the end of the day, the way how I look at it, in 2 and 3, we are voting a guardrail of 6.5%. The difference between 2 and 3 is the fact that Amherst has to minimize to 5.49%. What ends up happening here is that we're either deciding to vote option 3 or we're deciding to vote option 2. Either way, the guardrail is a guardrail. It doesn't guarantee that the towns are still going to hit that guardrail because we may go to and I say that because what ends up happening is the language that we have to send forward to DESI is that for FY26 only, we're looking at a 6.5%. The towns are going to push back. Shannon and I discussed that. We discussed what would happen if it made it all the way through, and we don't have it because the towns didn't approve it. We go to a, what is it, a 112 budget. So we are running a risk regardless of which one of these two options we select. I am with Bridget and with my staff, and more so, I am with the students of the regional district, and say vote the best option for the children, and then we fight and advocate from there. Because we're going to be here another 30 minutes talking about Amherst, Pelham, Shutesbury, and Leverett, and we're not talking about what's best for the kids.
Tillman, did you have your hand up? Nope.
I can't hear you.
Oh, did you have your hand up?
No, I withdraw, but I hope we get to a motion soon.
Okay. I have Irv and Jennifer on my list. Irv?
Yes. Dr. Z, I totally understand what you're saying and agree with it. I also agree with what Bridget is saying. However, I do understand, know, and realize that there are limits to which we are going to be held. And going to option 3, in my mind, will cause a greater uproar and resistance on the part of Amherst than option 2. Yes, I don't think anyone on this committee or in Amherst would say that we are anti-child in terms of what is best for our students. I don't think there's anyone in any of the 4 towns would say that. And however, I do believe that we have an obligation as school committee members, especially school committee members from Amherst, that we understand, know the budget of Amherst and what they are facing and what the town is facing, and financially. Knowing what the town's facing financially, and then knowingly going and voting on something that we know is going to cause additional stress or strains on the budget of Amherst is something I can't do and won't do. What I'm going to do is vote for that which makes most sense financially, and look at that and say, yes, it is certainly not ideal in relationship to the education of a child. Because if I really, really said, well, I'll focus upon the child, then I would go with whatever the superintendent put forward, regardless of the amount, as long as it met the needs of of our kids. But that's not. I don't think that's that's where we are. We are to look at the respective budgets of our towns, look at what our towns are sending to us as signals and concrete and non-concrete, and say, hey, is this the best budget we can pass to meet the needs of our kids? And that we realize that it will not meet all of the needs of our kids. And I'm certainly well aware that it will not meet the needs of our kids. And I'm painfully aware of the kinds of cuts that this will engender. But I firmly believe option 2 is something that we should go forward with.
Jennifer.
Okay, I'm going to move option 2, and we'll just see what happens. Now, according to the motion language, it looks, there's 2 motions that need to be made. And as far as I can tell, the first motion is the same for options 2 and 3, as far as I can tell. So The first motion is, I move to amend Section 6 of the Amherst Pelham Regional School District Agreement by replacing subsection J as follows. Quote, for fiscal year 2026 only, the assessments shall be allocated to the member towns in accordance with the per pupil method found in Section 6E of the Amherst Pelham Regional School District Agreement. If any member town's assessment based on the regional agreement method increases or decreases more than 6.5% from their fiscal year 2025 assessment, the fiscal year 2026 assessment shall be limited to a 6.5% change, provided that the requirements of minimum local contributions are still met, end quote, or take any other action relative thereto.
Second.
Was that you, Tillman?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Any further discussion?
Just
William?
quickly, if we pass this motion, it doesn't, it is still open for 2 and 3, correct?
No.
It's the same for 2 and 3, so.
Right, so if we pass this, we could still pass 3.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We're ready to vote. Jennifer?
Yes.
Tillman?
Yes.
Irv?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Bridget?
I'm gonna abstain.
Sarah?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
William?
Yes.
And Sarah Beth, yes. All right, so the motion passes with 8 yeses, 0 noes, and 1 abstention. Jennifer?
I'd like to make the second motion and then I'd like to speak to it after hopefully it gets a second.
Okay.
Let me just make sure I'm on the right page. I move to adopt a budget of $36,887,029 for fiscal year 2026 for the Amherst Pelham Regional School District and to assess member towns according to the method in the just approved amendment as follows. Amherst, $19,872,688. Pelham, $1,134,966. Leverett, $1,739. $1,739,621. Shutesbury, $1,761,618.
Second.
Point of order.
Oh,
Yeah.
yep. Go ahead, Tillman.
I just want to make sure that Amherst is 19 million, I believe. Jennifer accidentally said 1,000.
Sorry about that. Yes, I meant Amherst, $19,872,688.
Excellent. Okay. I will second it. Did you?
Thank
discuss
you.
it? Did
So,
want to-
yeah, I want to speak to the motion, which is that I hear what everyone's been saying, and I feel like motion 2, yes, the option 2 restores or preserves what I think are the most important of the cuts that would have been made. It restores the middle school team schedule. It restores 2 counselors. It restores world language. So even though it doesn't restore all the student-facing positions, to me, it restores the most important ones. I mean, most important is a tricky word, but it restores the ones that I think are most meaningful. And I want to vote a level services budget, but that has no chance of passing. I wish I could support motion 3, but I think that has a very low chance of passing. And and when I think about doing what's best for students, I think about option 2 being one that minimizes harm and has the best chance of passing. So that's why I motioned for option 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Deb?
I'm going to vote no. That I can do that as discussion. I'm going back to where I was in November of last year when I saw that surplus at the bottom of the spreadsheet in Amherst. I'm going back to one-time money being good enough for me year after year after year. So in terms of one of the public commenters, I feel like we're owed money. I do not buy the fact that that surplus is just can't now or ever be used to support the schools. And so I think Amherst has the ability to rethink that, especially with the support of the staff, the school committee, and the community, which has shown that it will support it.
Jennifer, is your hand up again?
It is, but you can
Oh.
put me at the end of the queue.
You are the cue, so have at it.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
all right.
Tillman.
I just want to say that I don't have a strong opinion either way because the main difference is to Amherst, and I believe that the representatives from Amherst on the committee should, kind of make the major decision. The one point where this connects to Leverett is that Anna had made the correct point, that we're still not moving out of this imbalance between the regional assessment method and what the towns do according to that formula, which we haven't been using, but the other one. And so I just want to point out that budget 2 would at least a little bit move the towns in the right direction.
Thank you. Okay, now it's your turn, Jennifer. Sorry.
Okay, I just wanted to respond to what Deb said. I agree with all of that. And we're going to have to bring all of that up, even with option 2. We're going to have to bring up free cash and capital and all the other, like, we're already asking Amherst to pay more than they said they wanted to pay. So all of that still applies, and it's still going to, we're still asking them to push. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, any further discussion? Okay. Jennifer, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tillman,
Yes.
Irv,
Yes.
Deb,
No.
Bridget,
No.
Sarah,
Yes.
Anna,
No.
William,
No.
and Sarah Bass. Right, yes. Okay, it does, I think that, Shannon, that needs a 2/3 vote also, right, as part of the budget?
Yes. How many said yes and no? I was trying to keep track.
We are 4 no's and 5 yeses. And
Yeah, so that
Need-
passes,
it what?
right? Does that? Oh, no, it needs 6 because
It
there's
needs
9.
6. Yep, so that does not pass.
So
Yep.
Go ahead.
I make a motion to move to adopt a budget of $37,077,171 for fiscal year 2026 for the Amherst Pelham Regional School District, and to assess member towns according to the method in the just approved amendments as follows: Amherst, $20,062,830; Pelham, $1,134,966; Leverett, $1,739,621; Shutesbury, $1,761,618.
Second.
Was that you, Bridget?
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? Nope. Okay. Yes. Okay. Deb,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
William,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Tillman,
Yes.
Irv,
I mean, I hear the will of the committee, and
I'm sorry, but we're not deliberating anymore, we're just voting.
Yes, but I still can comment. You know, if I'm in pain and making it, I'm going to express my pain regardless of what you say. So, yes, this is a painful decision for me. So, I'm going to abstain.
Okay. And Sarah Beth, yes. So that passes 8 to 0 with 1 abstention. Okay. We have, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I make a motion to move the district, I move that the district hereby appropriates a sum of $485,000 for the purpose of paying costs of the following projects, including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto. District asbestos management and abatement in the amount of $20,000. Infrared electrical system distribution analysis and repair in the amount of $10,000. High school energy management HVAC upgrades in the amount of $50,000. High school auditorium curtain and rigs in the amount of $150,000. High school auditorium house lights in the amount of $15,000. High school parking lot repaving in the amount of $20,000. Middle school walk-in cooler and freezer in the amount of $50,000. Middle school fire safety system upgrade in the amount of $100,000. Middle school west parking lot repaving repairs in the amount of $20,000. Middle school theater curtains in the amount of $50,000. Said sum to be expended at the direction of the regional school district school committee. To meet the appropriation, the district treasurer is authorized to borrow said amount under the pursuant to Chapter 71, Section 16D, and the general laws and the district agreement as amended are pursuant to other enabling authorities. Any premium received upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the cost of issuances of such bonds or notes may be applied to the payment of cost approved by this vote in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the general laws, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount.
Second.
Was that you, Sarah? Okay. Any further discussion?
I have a question.
Yep, go ahead, Debbie.
Our new superintendent, is it our plan to execute the capital program, which is this as laid out previously? Is this a continuation, and do you anticipate we will just be following this, or do you expect to be able to do an audit of the needs of the buildings and analyze whether the pre-existing plan is viable?
Yes and yes. In discussion with Shannon and the team, we do have a new operations director. So we want to give him an opportunity to go in and assess and make any changes. So we will carry forth and move forward with the capital plan as is, giving him the opportunity to assess and reassess and make changes.
Bridget, was your hand up also?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it my
Yeah.
turn? Yeah. Okay. So there's a small thing, which is the middle school curtains. And I'm not sure why we're going to hang new curtains under a leaking roof. So, small thing. The big thing is, this is not Dr. Z's fault or the new director of operations' fault, but I've been sitting here for a year saying something, and so I feel frustrated, and I'm just going to repeat it, which is, if we do not make our capital plan in a way that it's reducing our operating budget and making it more sustainable, I can't vote for it. End of story.
Tillman.
In light of the question to the superintendent, in light of the discussion around potentially combining middle school and high school in a single building, does it make sense at this point to invest in middle school projects?
Yes, because the middle school building is still functioning, and as my release said today, there's some major things that are happening while we still have children in the building. We also know that the high school itself has some capital projects that need to be undertaken, and so that's why I really need to give the operations team an opportunity to give me a good facilities plan around how we can use, maintain, and upkeep our facilities.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yes.
So I totally see this for the fire safety system upgrade, which, you know, this is in the middle school, but I'm not sure that new theater curtains are necessary if we, you know, plan to operate the building only for one more year. Same with parking lot paving. Um, so I just have reservations about these particular items.
I get that. I drive through the potholes every day. And so I think it also goes to safety. But we can have that discussion as well. High school parking lot repaving is also there. And if you leave our school committee meetings, I'm sure when you hit the speed bump and then the dip after it, you're fully aware that our parking lots need repaving. But we would still have to maintain and use that middle school building, and so it's just what the use would be in the future and how do we reprogram it is my thoughts.
Sarah?
Yeah, a comment and then a question. I think, well, last year, the Amherst Elementary Schools voted, or we asked for money, which I think we got, to replace an auditorium curtain in one of the elementary schools, and I believe we were told that it was a fire curtain. It's a fire safety requirement, or so I don't know that that is also the case for the middle school curtain, but perhaps it is. But then my question to the superintendent, it sounds like the new facilities director or director of operations, I guess, might come back and say, so the regional committee authorized these projects, we haven't done them, I don't think we should do them, and so might come back to want to repurpose or just put the money back in the pot and ask for some new projects the next year.
I would say yes, Shannon. That's our goal and our intent, the plan that was presented.
Yeah, so I mean, it's possible that if it's voted, but we don't actually end up doing it, we could say we were not going to use those funds and turn it back. We could do that. But I just want to also remind everyone that it has not been fully committed that the middle school and high school are conjoining. And when that study, there was a study done years ago, I don't remember when, but I was given some paperwork of what that transition would look like, and there was additions onto the high school. There were some more significant costs on there, and at the same time, we're also working with MSBA on this roof, and there have been deadlines that we've been meeting and having certain contracts signed that around getting the design portion done. That I can't say that at this point we're really committed to conjoining those two buildings, so there very well could be still a middle school here in 10 years. We don't know that for sure yet, and it's something that we're working on, but we need more time essentially. So we have to maintain and provide for the students that are there currently there, because there's no time frame for them to come out.
Deb?
I would like to amend. I would like to include $600,000 of mold remediation at the middle school.
Say that again?
I would like to add on $600,000 worth of mold remediation at the middle school.
Shannon, go ahead.
So, to do that, one, I'd have to amend also the capital debt schedule, but two, I think there's some issues if it's if our capital plan is over a certain dollar amount, not that it's an issue, but there's certain requirements that I'd have to check in with the treasurer, that I'm not really able to say if we could add another $600,000 to this.
Okay. I think Anna and then Sarah.
So, I know that there's a capital budget as well as a operating budget. And I'm wondering why none of this is going into the capital budget and why it's all being scheduled under debt.
This is the capital budget.
This is
So-
the capital.
But
Go
it
ahead,
says
Shannon.
This is all being funded by debt.
There's two budgets. There's our operating budget and there's our capital budget. Our capital budget is funding that we take out that does get paid back by the towns according to our debt schedule. So I'm not sure what you mean. It is our capital plan and our capital budget. And then
And
we
it's
have
always
a debt
a bond? It's
Yeah,
al-
a bond.
with the towns.
Well, this treasurer takes it out at the region on behalf of the towns, and that motion in the first paragraph of that motion gives her the right to do that.
Okay.
It's how they
How
they
it's
do
funded,
the
yeah.
funding, not
Fine.
yeah. Sarah.
I would ask Deb where that number came from. I mean, it's just out of the blue. I don't see how I could vote for it with no backup or unless, go ahead.
Well, because I couldn't pull up,
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
couldn't pull up the relative amounts that different towns pay off the top of my head. So I went with more or less Amherst's $500,000 plus whatever the other towns would proportionally contribute.
What do you mean they're Amherst's
I was,
500?
that's where I started. I tried to figure out what percentage of a whole Amherst would contribute $500,000 of. I'm not speaking good English.
No, I'm saying, why do you think a mold remediation would cost $600,000?
I think it's a start. I don't think there's any chance we're gonna be able to remediate that entire building with $600,000.
Irv.
In relationship to that question, and Deb, the question I have is to the superintendent is how serious of an issue is mold in the middle school?
Without being an environmental specialist, it's a serious enough issue that there is a wing that is closed off. I've had a meeting with the music teachers at the middle school where they've lost a music library and cannot go in because of the need for remediation. And even if they remediate, they may lose it. So I would say that at least testing, identification of specific areas would be something that is needed, and then to move from to the point of remediation. I know right now with the issue we have with the roof leaks, I'm sure there's some additional things that are brewing that we may need to get ahead of.
Can I have the follow-up to this is this an issue that threatens the health of the students in the middle school? And if so, why isn't it a part of this capital budget in the first place?
So, two things. Yes, mold affects the health and safety of the students, staff, and everyone in the middle school, including myself, because my office is in the middle school. And secondly, as I explained, I think was it Sarah or it's late. It's been a long week. That asked about why we're moving forward with the plan as is the fact that is the fact that we wanted to, one, give the director an opportunity to assess and determine what next steps are. I think that there was something that came out previously, because one of the questions I asked was about the need for the remediation. I think there was some work also in what's happening with the sixth grade move and if that's a part of the plan, because that's the wing that was supposed to be used. So there's some unknowns that we've been trying to unearth, but essentially for me, we do we need the opportunity to just create a clear facilities plan and determine what we can and can't do and then how much it's going to cost to assess and then remediate.
All right, so Dr. Z, I guess my concern is if I were a parent, I would be really concerned in terms of mold in the school building, and if that was a imminent threat to my child's health. So I am asking you if there is any imminent threat of health to the school students who are attending the middle school in relationship to mold.
So what I will say again is that to my knowledge, the areas that were worse and more severe than others have been closed off and are not accessible to students and staff. What I will also say is that if anything ever came in front of me as an imminent threat, I would shut that area down. It has not come to that point, but I do agree with the fact that we need to assess the building to determine what is what is the air quality, what is the actual type, if there is a type, if it is mold versus mildew, like what is occurring, and then create a plan. And so that would be my recommendation and my ask. If I would not sit here and say I know what it is, because I can't. I would be falsely sitting down here and saying something that I'm not qualified to do. I have a math and science background, but it's not in environmental science, and I don't test and put things in a petri dish. Sorry. But what I will say is the areas that are worse have been closed off. No one accesses those areas. And so what I was informed was that the areas that is accessed by staff and students are within reason for them. Now, everyone has a different level of sensitivity. Everyone is not the same, but nothing has been brought in terms of imminent danger to my attention. I do want the building assessed, though. That is definitely something that needs to be done so we can have a clear facilities plan. And I would like the operations director to have the opportunity to work within what is currently happening as well as to make a plan for the future.
Is that assessment of capital cost?
Shannon?
I was just going to add that over the years we have had funding for asbestos management and abatement, and I think sometimes if the mold is within the same place, it's managed under that funding as well. So it's not that nothing has ever been done, but I think it's coupled in partly with the asbestos.
Thank you. Jennifer? Do you not have
I
anything?
withdraw.
Okay. Sarah?
Yeah. I'm assuming that the mold or mildew, whatever problem, is due to the roof leaks. I could be wrong, but if they are, then trying to remediate before the roof is replaced may not make any sense at all. So while I support making our school healthier, I think this motion is premature, and I don't like to I think the operations manager will be in the best position to tell us how much and when, and not go forward with that at this time.
Okay. Tillman?
Has the motion been seconded?
Yes.
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 Okay, so then I speak to the motion. I'm reluctant to vote yes on the motion to amend because this was not put forth by the superintendent, nor was it studied, and so there's no basis on which a suitable amount can be determined.
Deb?
I'm not willing to wait another year. There's kids in there that get headaches. There's kids in there with asthma. There's visible mold. I was going to ask, but the superintendent stayed out. The reason that air quality studies have not been done is because if there is visible mold, there is no reason for it to be done. That the guidance is if there's visible mold, it is a health hazard. And yeah, it's going to keep happening, and but this is a start, and it might be less cost efficient than waiting until the roof is done in N years, if we get the MSBA approval. And that's going to come at a capital cost to the towns as well. It's just, if it were my house, I would get the mold out, and I would do what it takes to keep my family healthy. Kids spend 6.5 hours a day in that building. Staff spends 6.5 hours a day in that building, if not more. It is inches away from, if somebody did an OSHA complaint, I don't think we'd have a choice. I think it is a health hazard to 400 people, some of them more vulnerable than others. And I think it needs to be done. And here I am, a year and 3 months into my time here, and I'm just not willing. Yeah, it'll be pumping, it'll be siphoning water out of a boat that's taking on water. I'm not willing to wait until the boat is sealed. So I could add assessment or development of a capital plan, but I'm just not willing to let this go another year without it being something actionable on my part. And this is my effort to do that.
Shannon, can I ask you a question? If our operating budget needs to be turned in on Monday, is the same true for the capital plan? Or if it's, you said there's a threshold, a dollar threshold?
Yeah, I have to check with the treasurer. I know because we were talking about another capital project to put on here that would have put us over a threshold, and there was some requirement. I can't remember what it was, and we decided not to do that to put us over that amount. But I need clarity from her. I have the regional agreement printed out right next to me, so I will check to see if we need to have this voted, the capital portion voted within 40 days. So you just give me a minute, I will look.
Okay, thank you. It's Sarah? And
Yeah,
then
I was just going to say, we can vote this kind of thing off cycle. We don't have to wait a year. It's like when we passed another authorization for the truck or something, whatever it was we did last February or March, and they still have the pocket veto or pocket approval, I guess. So I don't think it's that we would have to wait a year. So I don't think we have to act on it tonight. Shannon can look into, whatever the requirements are, let the operations manager weigh in on this.
Anna?
So I was going to ask whether mold abatement is part of the MSBA grant, or whether mold remediation would be part of the roof replacement project. And if so, then it would make sense to, and then is the roof going to be replaced like this summer, or is it going to be next year, or is it going to be the following year?
I would have to, I think we're in the design phase. I don't think more remediation because it's not even the full roof. It's portions of the roof that's being replaced. I have to get the full percentage to tell you. That's one. Two, I don't think, but I don't want to be quoted, so let me get some more information about what all is included in the replacement. And what was three?
When is it gonna be replaced?
Okay, so I believe it's the work either starts summer of 2027. I believe it's either 2027 or 2026.
Okay. So then I would say we need to address them all way before then. And I'm with Deb on this one. I heard reports of people attending a concert in the middle school auditorium and leaving because they were coughing. So it's not safe. And continued exposure to this kind of fumes is just, it is a health hazard, and I do think it needs to be addressed before the roof is replaced. At the very least, where it's visible in rooms that we're using, it needs to be addressed. And I don't know how to figure out how much money to allocate towards that or how much money to allocate towards even just an assessment. But I don't think this can be delayed. It's been delayed for like 15 years and it's still not being taken care of. And this is just one of those things where every year that we wait, we're endangering the health of kids and teachers and staff.
Hi, Dr. Z.
I would like to ask the regional school committee to table this, give Shannon and I an opportunity to review the regional agreement, to meet with Mike Gallo, to revise the capital plan and bring it back forth.
When do we need to do that?
Can we do that, Shannon?
I'm not seeing in here where it relates capital and a specific deadline. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I haven't found it yet.
Okay. Bridget?
I mean, I agree with Dr. Z. It seems to me like at the very least, we need a mold study, so we have some data to tell us what's going on. This capital plan has some very large expenditures that would fall below this expenditure in terms of immediacy, so I don't want to vote on it right now, no.
Irv?
I guess at a minimum, just to give the school committee, parents and students some safety consolation is, can there be an air quality study done? I mean, because if an air quality study is done throughout the school, at least we have information that there is or is not a problem.
I do agree, Irv. I just would like to have the opportunity to price that adequately, shift things around, and then I wouldn't just do it for the middle school. I would just do it for the region one time in the high school, because there are areas of the high school that I have received emails of concern about. So that's why I'm asking to table this. I think that the next regional meeting is on the 25th. I think that would give us enough time to meet with Mike, Shannon, and the team. We can price out what it's going to cost and move forward that way. So I'm just asking for this to be tabled.
Shannon?
And I just think that we also need a backup plan to meet on Monday in the event that it does need to be voted.
Can't be Monday. We need 2 business days. It would have to be Wednesday. So we'll talk about it, Shannon.
Yep, go ahead, William.
Can we not add a second capital plan if we needed to later? Or we may want to redo this, so never mind. I'll be quiet.
Yeah. Jennifer? Oh, no. What, are you guys all set? Okay. Deb?
I didn't pull I did pull the $500,000 out of the air, but the reason it's $500,000 is our community and other members of the school committee made a plea to the Amherst Town Council to reduce an appropriation for $1 million for the roads and sidewalks back in November because they were because they were advocating for the schools. And Amherst Town Council responded appropriately, I think, in creating space for us to request those funds. We have not, and I believe those funds are available, and I believe that it is an appropriate use of those funds. And so I have waited, and I have advocated and requested, as have other people, and I'm not willing, I will be willing, if it is appropriate, to wait a month. My concern is this whole, if it has to go to the other towns and they have to conduct an entirely new town meeting to support it, or they pocket authorize it, then you're between a rock and a hard place, right? Are you gonna make 3 towns go through that or pocket authorize this request because of the inability of the school committee or me or whoever you want to point a finger to take an action on that money that is sitting there, I believe, waiting for us to ask for it.
Jennifer?
Yeah,
And
I taking to heart the superintendent's request that we delay voting on this. And so I believe the appropriate motion is to postpone. I'm going to move that we postpone both motions to our next meeting. And if the next meeting needs to be called sooner due to timing, then the chair will call a meeting sooner, but I'm just going to move that we postpone both motions to our next meeting.
Point of order.
Tillman?
I believe the correct motion is to move that the motion and any pending amendment be laid on the table.
Can you say that again?
Laid on the table.
Well,
The
or to
motion.
table the motion and any pending amendment.
So I made the motion and I'm moving to postpone. That's I looked it up. That's what Robert's rules wants us to do. So I'm sticking with postpone to our next meeting.
Next meeting. Okay, I will second that. So now we have to vote on postponing this to our next meeting, and like Jennifer said, if, over the weekend, we can figure out if that has to be an immediate meeting, or we can wait till the 25th. I will let you all know as soon as I can. Okay.
Can I just read this statement? It says, no later than 40 days prior to the earliest date on which the business session of the annual town meeting of any member town is to be held, but not later than March 31st, the committee shall adopt an operating and maintenance budget for the next fiscal year, itemized as follows. And then it says instruction, instructional support, operational support, debt, parentheses, not passed as town debt exclusion, end parentheses, and other programs. So I'm wondering,
Shannon, could you read the part that says no later than March 31st and go slow?
so not later than 40 days prior to the earliest date on which the business session of the annual town meeting of any member town is to be held, but not later than March 31st. So it's either it's got to be 40 days prior, and if it's 40 days prior is after March 31st, it has to be voted by March 31st. And it says the committee shall adopt an operating and maintenance budget for the next fiscal year.
Okay, so we have until Wednesday.
Monday.
Monday.
Monday is 40 days before the Shutesbury and Leverett town meeting.
Sarah?
I'm going to repeat, we can vote a bond authorization at any time. We don't have to do this now. I mean, the second part of the motion, or the second motion, would be that within 48 hours of voting on this bond authorization, the boards of selectmen would be notified.
Yes,
I mean,
that notification
but we-
has to occur 40 days before town meeting.
Only if we did this,
Okay.
okay.
Jennifer?
I withdraw my motion to postpone.
Okay. Okay. So, here's what I think. I think we should vote this capital plan in, so we meet all of our deadlines with the towns, so we are in compliance, and we can take up, we can work to figure out how to add
Asbestos remediation, or
some sort of
mold remediation.
mold plan. Otherwise, we're gonna be out of compliance with our
Assessment,
assessment.
okay.
Okay.
And
Yep.
Just to clarify our point of order, I guess, we did not accept an amendment, did we?
Yes, we did not.
We did
We
not.
did not.
Okay, so it is as printed
Yes.
currently.
As written.
And you don't have to say it again.
Oh, good, thank you.
Okay. Tillman?
But the amendment is still on the table, right?
I withdraw.
Ah, okay, sorry.
No,
No,
Yep.
Jennifer withdrew.
Jennifer withdrew it. No, she withdrew the tabling.
Right.
You
Jennifer withdrew the
suggested, but no
trailing.
one.
That's
I
why.
Deb,
Withdrawn
you withdraw
her
yours.
amendment.
I withdraw my amendment request.
Okay.
If we're going to do, well, I didn't do it. I request that we do what we say we will do in as quick an order as possible,
Yes.
separate from the amendment withdrawal. It's not,
Yes.
it's not conditional.
Okay. Thank you. All right. We are now voting on our FY '26 capital plan. Jennifer,
Yes.
Tillman,
Yes.
Irv,
Yes.
Deb,
No.
Bridget, Sarah,
Yes.
Anna.
I'm gonna vote yes.
William,
Yes.
and Sarah Best, yes. So we have a FY capital plan with 7 to 2 noes. Okay,
There's another motion
and
still.
now we need our second motion. Yep.
You wanna read it?
Hold on.
Are you looking at me? Oh, okay, sure. Move that
Sure.
within 48 hours from the date on which this vote is adopted, the secretary be and hereby is instructed to notify the Board of Selectmen or Town Council of each of the member towns of this district in writing as to the amount and general purposes of the debt herein authorized as required by Chapter 71, Section 16D of the general laws and by the district agreement. In addition, the committee shall cause the same information to be published within 10 days after such authorization as a paid notice in a newspaper circulating in the district.
I second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Deb,
Yes.
Bridget,
If I voted no on the motion, wouldn't I not vote no on this, or is this just to send it
this is the motion that says,
since the
go
whole budget?
forth and tell the people you need to
Okay.
tell.
Yes. Thank you.
Sarah,
Yes.
Ayanna,
Yes.
William,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Tillman,
Yes.
Irv,
Yes.
and Sarah Vest, yes. Motion passes unanimously. Okay. Irv,
will all the information necessary to be forwarded by the secretary to the towns be forwarded to the secretary?
Yes.
Yes, Shannon will handle that.
The treasurer does it, but yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody want to make a? Yeah, Jennifer.
Don't we have one more motion
Yeah,
about debt
yes.
assessment?
The debt assessment, yeah.
Page 5.
Oh, yes.
I move to assess member towns. I move to assess member towns for debt service on previously approved projects according to the debt schedule for fiscal 26 as follows. Amherst, $367,832, Pelham, $27,745, Leverett, $42,273, and Shutesbury, $34,039.
Second. Was that you, Anna?
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? Excellent. Deb,
Yes?
Bridget,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
William,
Yes.
Sarah Beth, yes. Jennifer,
Yes.
Tillman,
Yes.
Irv,
Yes.
excellent.
I move we adjourn.
Second, Jennifer.
Was that you, Deb?
Yeah,
All right. Do we have a second?
I seconded.
Second.
Jennifer.
Jennifer did.
All right. Jennifer,
Yes.
Tillman,
Yes.
Irv,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes?
Bridget,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
William,
Yes.
and Sarah Beth. We are.